Now let's do the practical of REST API with Node.js and Express.js. So Express.js is a web application development framework for Node.js, and it would make very easy and very flexible to make the REST API within the Express.js. So we would be using the Express.js, we would be using the Node.js in order to create the REST API. So let's start. So first we will be going into the folder and we would be initializing the npm. Then after initialization, we would be installing some packages. Like we would be installing the Express so that we can get the Express framework. And along with the Express, we would be getting the body parser. So this is the request body parser. So in case if we want to parse the body, it would be very helpful for us. Other than this, we are installing the course so that the cross origin can be handled, and we would be installing the env because we would be using the env file for configurations. For now, we would only be using the Express.js, but we are installing these dependencies so that we cannot get into any trouble. So the dependencies have been installed successfully, and now we will be going into the Visual Studio Code in order to make our REST API. So here it is, and we would be creating the index.js, for example. So we would first be getting the Express in order to get the API server listening to a port. So we will be getting it using like require Express, and we would be creating the object of the application using Express. We would be defining a port on which our application would be executed. So we can use process.env.port, and if it is not available, then it would be alternatively use the 3000 port. Now we would be calling dot listen, and we would be listening to the port. Along with that, we are printing the message that server is listening on port. Now let's see in terminal node index.js. So now it is listening on 3000 port, but we have not created any endpoint or any APIs. So now we would be creating it. So for this, we would be app.get. So the app.get would be listening for the get method with the route that we would define. We have defined the route currently the slash, and we would be defining a method here request, and we would be sending the response, like for example response.send welcome to the API. Now it is listening on 3000 port, and now we would be accessing the 3000 port along with localhost. So we would be typing localhost colon 3000, and the server is successfully up and it is listening on the 3000 port. Now we would be creating other routes. So let's create a folder routes so that we can properly place all the routes within the folder. And then we would be creating the user routes, for example, .js. And in here we would be using the express router. So the express router is used to register the routes for our API. So we would be using the require express, and we would be using router is equals to express dot router. With this we can define our routes. So let's say we are saying route this request response, and this is the route that would be sending welcome to the users, or we can send it in JSON, which is a good practice. So we would be saying response.json. This method would be sending the JSON, so we can send a JSON like all users are here. And then we would be initializing this file and would be using these routes app.use. So the app.use is used for registering the middlewares or to mount the routes. So currently here we are mounting the routes. So we would be using the app.use. Now we want that our user routes would be accessible using slash API slash users and then our routes. So we would be defining it this way, and we would be registering the user routes here. and we would be defining it. And from here, we would be exporting our route. So module.exports router. We would be exporting the router so that whenever we get the user routes, we have all the routes available and then we would be accessing it. So now we would be listening on the 3000 port and now we can write localhost 3000 slash API slash users and we would be getting the route that all users are here. So this is the REST API that we have created for the practical using Node.js and Express.js.